Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first ever sit-down interview with a PTFL head coach. This is one that's extremely special to me because of the person that I am interviewing. Austen Slowki, the head coach of the San Diego Vipers, and my tag partner, the longest reigning Bushido tag team champion, the High Pandas, as everyone knows if you watch WLW. We've talked about it a bit, and also Bushido. But let's get into Austen. Let's talk about your decision to go to San Diego. I know there was a head coaching position open, and I asked you about if you were interested to join the PTFL, and you chose San Diego. What about San Diego? What about this team made you want to, show up, if you will?
Well, it seemed like the defense was really stout going in. That's always been my MO from a football perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Got a lot of playmakers on that side of the ball, and I felt like we were really close coming into this season.
So I feel like when you say the defense, let's talk about some of these players. We got Booker White, his 7th year. You got Davis Johnson. You got his brother, Robbie Johnson, who you drafted this year. We'll get into the draft in just a minute. You got your rookie, Johnny Black at Indiana, also someone you drafted. You got Cooper Tanner, Alvin Usman. You got Bo Woodley, Richie Taffe, Quintavis Toon, Oscar Dre, Chad Dickinson, and Gunnar Richardson. So let's talk about kind of the D line. This is kind of the thing that I know that you were big on, and getting Robbie Johnson out of Auburn as late as you did in the draft, was that something that you were expecting, or were you surprised like everyone else to see Robbie drop?
No, I thought he would go much sooner than we got him. Obviously, I'm grateful that he fell to us into our lap as late as he did, because I feel like we can really get a lot out of him on this D line. Like, that's the first thing that, as a head coach on the defensive side of the ball, getting pressure, stopping the run, those are the two things. Like, it's in the trenches for me. That's where it starts. And getting him that late in the draft, I think will just add another level to our D line that we haven't seen yet.
I mean, yeah, you talk about the pressure that Robbie can bring. I mean, like I said, a great player from the SEC. You got his brother Davis Johnson. You got those two chemistries right there, and I think that's a great thing to have for a defense. But I think one of the most underrated picks of the draft, and I've talked to some people outside of the PTFL. Let's talk about your pick in I believe it was the 7th round. Yeah. Again, you picked Alvin Usman out of Mississippi State, a kid that I didn't think would drop as far as he did in the final round. When he was available, I know, were you thinking about taking him earlier, or were you just seeing if he was going to still be there over and over again?
We had our eye on him for a while in the later stage of the draft, but obviously there was a lot of guys on our board, and he just kind of fell to us like our other pick.
Yeah.
And coming out of Mississippi State, we saw a lot of tape on this guy, and I think he's going to be able to fly in the middle of the field there. He's great in coverage. He's able to blitz the hell out of everybody.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is his blitzing ability. And then we talk about your favorite team, the college team, the Oklahoma Sooners, and you picked 2 kids from there. I mean, you picked Quintavious Toon out of Oklahoma and then Gunnar Richardson out of Oklahoma. And my question is, when you picked these 2 teams, or when you picked these 2, was there a bit of Boomer Sooner bias with that?
I don't know if it was necessarily bias, but obviously, as a fan of Oklahoma, I've seen these guys play a ton. So I've been able to study on my own, along with our scout team, just how good these guys have actually played in college. And obviously with Quintavious Toon, he had the record in Oklahoma for interceptions and defensive touchdowns. So I feel like having him and Gunnar Richardson in the back end is just going to solidify that.
And honestly, I'm surprised that Gunnar Richardson dropped as far as he did. I mean, I made it known when the draft was going on, when Southampton took Opal Davidson, I was shocked. I thought Gunnar Richardson was a shoe-in for Southampton, and obviously the reigning 2-time PTFL champions. I thought they're going to get him. And when they didn't, and I saw he dropped, I knew exactly where you were going to fucking go. I figured immediately once he didn't get picked, I was like, oh, well, he's going to San Diego. Like I didn't think any other team would take him. If it wasn't Southampton, it would probably be you. And when he went, I was like, oh, okay, well, that makes 100% sense. And I mean, you guys probably one of the better defensive drafts, in my opinion. In my opinion, the one downfall you did is you picked, I think, Johnny Black too soon. But we talked about it a bit. You think this kid has a lot to prove, and that's why you picked him.
Well, not only that, but I feel like we have a lot of depth on our D line already, so we can get this guy to develop. Like, obviously, the later stage of the draft, you're kind of just taking a flyer
Yeah.
on some of these guys. So I'm not really concerned at all with how he performed in college. I'm very much more concerned with how he'll translate to the league, how we'll be able to develop him. And I think being able to kind of just play a rotational role on that defensive line, especially in his first year, will
Yeah.
do wonders for him.
So I think it's time to talk about the big elephant in the room. Um, to get the draft pick that you got, you traded your former quarterback, the guy who was a staple in San Diego. You didn't want him anymore. And then you went ahead with your first pick. You took Carson Howell out of Duke. What did you see in Carson Howell that other than, like, there's guys like Edgar Roach, who Oregon took, your rival. We'll get into Oregon in a minute. But when you took guys like with Carson Howell, I mean, there are other guys on the board, like, for example, a kid that didn't get drafted, Brian Schulte. Schulte did not get drafted at all. He's an undrafted free agent. He's still out there. But what did you see in Carson Howell coming out of Duke? I know he was a great quarterback, but for you personally, what about his play style you seem fits San Diego?
So we've had our eye on Carson for months now. Obviously, in the ACC, he led it in passing touchdowns, led it in yards. He was the runner-up in 2022 for the Heisman. So coming into this draft in the preliminary process, our scout team and myself, we had multiple meetings with him and really got to know him both on the field and off the field. And we loved the way he carried himself. We loved that he could sling the ball with such accuracy from wherever the hell he wanted. And I think that was what we were missing at the quarterback position. And I think he's only going to go up from here, dude.
Did anything play into the fact that, like, you're new coming in, right? You want your guy. You want a guy you can trust behind center. And I mean, obviously San Diego did not do well last season or the season prior, but I think with this new guy, this new blood, this new face of San Diego and you, I think that is what rejuvenates it. But then you got the wide receiver that I was surprised you picked, but I'm honestly not that surprised. Richard Black, a good slot receiver, probably one of the best in the SEC, next to Vincent Brooks, who was taken last in the draft, which is a shocker to me. But I mean, you taking Richard Black when you did is kind of a statement, in my opinion, of you, because keep in mind, you really don't have that many good receivers. You got Landon McAllister and you got Stevie Vetter, and then we'll get into the tight end rookie you drafted, because I think that's one of the best picks you've done. But when you got Richard Black, I mean, he's obviously your wide receiver one.
Absolutely. And we knew going into this draft that we needed some playmakers to give Carson Howell as best of an opportunity as he possibly could. And I think Richard Black in the slot, he is going to absolutely torch the middle of the field. Like, we're going to be able to do a lot of creative things with him, get him in space, and I think Carson Howell is going to click with him very, very quickly.
And then probably one of your better picks for offense next to Carson Howell and Richard Black, getting Obafala out of Boise State. Probably, I mean, this 6'7" tight end, people didn't think he'd go as high as he did. I thought he was a fucking great pick, a shoe-in for you. And I mean, just what do you see in him for your offense? I mean, obviously, you're a very run-heavy offense with Shannon Beck and Kevin Red. But, I mean, you could sling the ball if need be. But what did you see in Obafala that was like, oh, this kid is a fucking beast?
He's a do-it-all tight end, dude. He can catch, he can block the hell. He's like a sixth
Mhm.
offensive lineman for
Yeah.
us now, which is going to help immensely in the run game, obviously. But whenever we want him, split him out in the slot or out wide, have him chip, and then go into the flat. Like, we're going to be able to do a lot of things with Oba, and I think he's just going to add another level to that, another layer to that offense that we just didn't have last year,
Mhm.
that it's going to translate on the field.
So after we covered the draft, I think the next thing, the biggest thing to talk about is your week one matchup against your rival Oregon Crusaders. And this is kind of personal for you as well. As you know, Mike Fletcher Jr. is now the head coach of Oregon, the man that beat you for the Intercontinental title in Bushido. And, you know, obviously there's a little tension there. This is a home opener. He said in interviews that's going to come up on the channel later, he talked about his defense being very blitz heavy. He talked about how his team underneath Edgar Roach is going to rookie Edgar Roach, by the way, two rookie quarterbacks slinging it. He said he's going to go into San Diego with a fighting attitude. So from your perspective, both of you new head coaches, both of you obviously from different backgrounds, how are you preparing for next Monday against at home against Oregon?
Starts in the run game. If we can get that going, it'll open up the pass game. They won't be able to blitz us as heavily, and that'll just make it easier for Carson Howell to perform at a level that we think he is capable of. Obviously, like you said, there is some tension there between me and Mike Fletcher.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for him, though, both as a performer in WLW and as a head coach.
Yeah.
But that being said, Oregon is our rival, and I would like to get one up on them this weekend.
Well, yeah, let's talk about the past with this. Obviously, the PTFL, this is the first time it's being showcased to anyone. But there has been, this has been a brutal rivalry. There have been times where the game has to be stopped, then we have a delay because of a fight during the game. Obviously, these players have played each other a lot, and you looked at the schedule, and I know you've had this game circled. Obviously, the home opener, the first week, you want to make a good impression. But not only is this a preview of the season to come, you play Oregon again in Oregon, the last game of the season in the final rivalry week, and kind of how I've structured the schedule this year. What are you going to show some things in this game and then hide some things for the last game? Are you going to play it a way that it's kind of going to be indicative of what you plan to do in this season? Obviously, right now I've talked to bettors, I've talked to people that are in control of, or like in Vegas, right? And they said the favorites right now to be in the PTFL championship again is San Antonio and also Southampton. So you playing your rival week one and you're looking at your schedule. How confident are you in this team's ability to make the championship and hell, even become the first time PTFL champions in franchise history?
Very confident. I feel like we did a lot of great things this offseason, really revamped what our identity is as a team.
You cleaned house.
Yeah. But we kept our defense, which was what I really wanted to do from the beginning. And then we completely revamped our offense in the way that I thought was best for the team moving forward. And of course, because we open and close our schedule with Oregon, the opening game, I'm going to throw things at them that they probably weren't expecting coming into the season, but I'm not going to give them those same looks later in the season. Like, we're gonna throw a bunch of different looks at them that they're not going to expect, and I think it's gonna pay dividends for us.
So other than Oregon, what team are you looking forward to play against the most? You got the reigning defending PTFL champions. You got the runner-ups for 2 years straight, San Antonio, who's in your division. You got teams like Baton Rouge, and you got teams like Cincinnati Kings. What team to you is like, I need to beat this team because I need to prove that we are the best team in the league? What team to you is like, okay, we've arrived, like this is our year?
I think, of course, it would be the champs. Putting a statement win against those guys would put us in a major spotlight, obviously. but it would just boost the confidence of our team to a level that I don't even think they're expecting coming into the season.
So I believe you play Southampton week 5 at Southampton. So at that point, I mean, this is a 12-week season. It's a 12-game season. Obviously, there's no buys yet. We're working on that. But there is there is spaces in between for the players to rest. But that week 5 matchup, I mean, by that point, you could be either 0-5, you could be 3-2. I mean, you could be a certain place, and Southampton could be that way as well. Going into that game, where your team has its identity now. I mean, you've gotten to a point where, all right, we've shown them what we can do, and then you have to face the reigning champions, the guys that have done it back to back, and not only done it back to back, have killed in both back to back championships. In 2021, it was, I believe, the score was 52-10, and then in 2023. Or 2022 and 2023, I can't fucking speak. In 2022, it was 52-10 against San Antonio. And then in 2023, it was 48-13. And now, going into this season, obviously, they are the favorites to make a three-peat. And I know that in Baton Rouge, because I'm very close with the head coach, Brian Thatcher, great guy, fucking phenomenal dude. I mean, he sit at WLW shows a couple times. He talks about how he wants to stop the three-peat, and that is his goal, is to stop the three-peat. Going into this season, are you even worried about the three-peat, or are you just worried on getting a title to San Diego?
I'm just worried about my team.
I think that's a fair assessment, honestly. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, this has been a great interview. Obviously, I mean, we've talked about the draft. We talked about the week 1 in Austin's talked about a bit of tension between him and Mike Fletcher Jr., but I think it's going to be a good game regardless. I'm looking forward to see both of these rookie quarterbacks sling it. And again, it's next Monday. It'll probably be the later game due to the West Coast time, but it is going to be a hell of a contest in San Diego. Austin, I thank you for your time. And, I have to fly from fucking where the fuck are we next week? It's like fucking, it's the Midwest. I just can't fucking remember where WLW will be, but I have to fly from there to there. It's just, my schedule's just so fucking busy at this point. But yeah, I mean, it's what we do. It's for the love of the game, and I can't wait to see what you bring to the table. Again, thank you for your time, and we hope you all enjoyed.